as a small fixed percentage of their income. That is now the law everywhere in the United States for the whole student loan program. There are already 1 million young Americans who have chosen to pay this loan back as a fixed percentage of their income. And what does that mean? Number one, you never have to drop out of college again, never, because you're worried about the cost. And number two, it means when you do get out, you don't have to take a job because of your loan payments. Your loan payments will be determined by the job you take. So if some young Richard Carmona wants to go to work for the sheriff's department or to be a school teacher or a nurse, they can afford to do it because the loan they have to pay off will be paid off in monthly increments as a fixed percentage of their income and no more. Now that's a huge deal. And believe it or not, it gets better. Believe it or not, that actually saved you as taxpayers $60 billion over 10 years. It was cheaper than the old system. So what was done with the money? It was put into guaranteeing continued increases in Pell Grants and the continuation of the tax credits for tuition. So, a big part of the so-called Ryan budget and the commitment of Governor Romney is to, what? I'm telling you, I couldn't make this up. These people are concerned about the debt. A big part of their commitment is to repeal that law, go back to the old system, give the $60 billion to the banks, reducing Pell Grants in the future, putting the tax credits in question, making the student loans more expensive, and making them hard to repay. If you believe in the legacy of the GI Bill that made this man, if you want there to be a 21st century modern American middle class with good education, you've got to vote for Rich Carmona for the United States Senate. Amazingly enough for me, even though this law was passed 3 years ago, there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of university students, never mind their parents, brothers, and sisters, who don't even know this. There were people in this audience who did not know it until I told you tonight. So tomorrow, I want you to start going up to total strangers on the street and saying, you got to vote for Rich Carmona because of ASU and the University of Arizona and all the other colleges in this state, and the promise that the change in the student loan law opens for unimaginable numbers of young people. Now, I'll tell you another reason you ought to vote for him. Because he's a veteran. With a Purple Heart. And because this country has 300,000 people who came home after serving their country in Iraq or Afghanistan, who probably would have died in a previous war because battlefield medicine is so much better. But they were injured primarily by what we call roadside bombs and what people in the service call IEDs, improvised explosive devices. And when they explode and don't kill you, they still shake your brain around. So we have literally hundreds of thousands of young Americans with traumatic brain injuries of varying degrees of severity. They have to be taken care of. When all these people say they want to give me a tax cut and they're going to adopt Congressman Ryan's budget, I don't know what's going to happen to those veterans, but I'll tell you something. They put it on the line for us. I'm glad they survived. Now we got to make sure they get a chance to thrive. And that's another reason why the United States Senate. Since that health care bill passed, because of the requirement that 80 to 85% of your insurance premium now has to go to health care instead of profits and promotion, over $1 billion in refunds were paid this year to people with health insurance. And a lot more benefited them because a lot of insurance companies, instead of paying the refunds, went in and just lowered the rates. Because that bill passed, we had health inflation below 4% 2 years in a row for the first time in 50 years. point out that a part of that bill was taking the advice of a committee of doctors and other health professionals that Medicare costs would not increase as much in the next 10 years as they thought. So they could allocate $716 billion less to pay for those increases without cutting any services to anybody. And because of that, 8 years were added to the life of the Medicare trust funds, which means we got till 2024 to fix it, and we don't have to adopt a voucher for Medicare. We've got time to figure out how to control health care costs. It means that the donut hole in the senior citizen drug program can be closed, saving the average senior $600 a year. It means that there's money there to provide insurance for the tens of millions of people who don't have it today because they got pre-existing conditions. That's what it means. So Governor Romney and the congressman and all these other people, they say, oh, we got to repeal this bill. We got to get rid of this. We got to give this money back to the providers. Now, keep in mind, the AARP, hardly the enemy of America's senior citizens, they endorsed his position and the position of the professionals. They said, that's right, we're not going to have the inflation we thought we were going to have. Even more, since our Republican friends love the market, look what the market said about it. After these terrible changes were adopted, designed to crush the Medicare Advantage program, what happened? More insurance companies than ever before said, there's still enough profit in there, let us provide those services. More than ever before. 1. 2, 17% more seniors took advantage of the program. 3, their costs went down 16% because of the competition that's still in there. So don't be fooled. If you got a parent or a grandparent who depends on Medicare, if you want to save it over the long run, you better vote for Rich Carmona for the United States Senate. Because I'm at ASU. I got to say one last thing. All over the world, the biggest challenges that countries are facing today is creating enough jobs for the people of age to work and creating enough good jobs for the people who have education. It's not an American challenge, it's a global challenge. We sell the world's least expensive AIDS medicine in 70 countries. We build healthcare systems in 33 countries. I work with farmers in Asia and Latin America and Africa. I work everywhere. This is a problem everywhere. Now, we are here at the university which is trying to lead Arizona into being the global capital of solar power, solar technology, and the jobs of tomorrow. Now, in every single international scientific study, the United States of America ranks first or second in the world in the capacity to generate electricity from the sun and the wind. Every one. But a lot of countries are doing better than us. On a sunny spring day earlier this year in Germany, where the sun shines on average as much as it does in London, they nevertheless generated 66 gigawatts of electricity from the sun, the equivalent of 20 nuclear power plants running flat out. Germany is 1/3 our size. Their sunshine efficiency is about half ours. Deutsche Bank, a bank, said they've netted 300,000 new jobs out of their program, and if we adopted it, we would get 2 million if we just had the German system. But we already have, with much more limited support, 100,000 people working in solar in America. That's more people than we have working in the coal industry, more people than we have working in the steel industry. And his opponent and their nominee for president want to get rid of the elemental supports that are going to bring America to the forefront of this, give us a new modern economy, and stop the climate from burning up and compromising your future. You've got to elect Rich Carmona to send the right signal on that. Now, otherwise, I don't have strong feelings about this race. And let me just remind you one other thing. It's not an issue in the election, but it ought to be. Far more than the House of Representatives, the United States Senate has serious responsibilities in the area of national security. When he was the Surgeon General, he worked on public health issues like the adverse effects of secondhand smoke. And I'm glad he did. He did a good job on that. But he also worked on the question of bioterrorism, how to prevent it, and what to do about it if it occurs. I would like to have a medical doctor in the United States Senate who understood health care at home and the national security implications of biological and chemical warfare, and I think you should too. Now, none of this really should have anything to do with party. It only has to do with party because of the extremism which has taken control of the other side. And I think sort of has a chokehold, which has any chokehold has the adverse effect of cutting off oxygen to the brain. Now, we're having a good time here, but this is really serious. You just remember, I've been doing this a long time. I travel the world. I see the most successful societies on earth. Everywhere that's working, creative cooperation is dominant over constant conflict. Everywhere that's working, we're all in this together, trumps you're on your own. Everywhere that's working, shared prosperity is preferred over trickle down. This is not a closed question. It is not about Republicans and Democrats and independents. It's about what really matters when it's all said and done. For those of us who have more yesterdays than tomorrows, I can tell you right now what really matters to me. The only thing that matters. Are people better off when you quit than when you started? Do children have a brighter future? And are things coming together or being torn apart? If you want to be better off when you quit than when you started, if you want the young people to have a brighter future, if you want America to come together and not be torn apart, you can do something about it in Arizona. You can send Rich Carmona to the United States Senate.